At precisely 3:06 a.m., my front door wasn't gently nudged open or rattled by the wind. It was ripped clean off its hinges with a force so violent it sent a thunderous bang echoing through the house. I'm not speaking metaphorically here. Wood splintered and flew in every direction like an explosion of kindling. 4 men burst inside, clad in black tactical vests emblazoned with stark white letters, shouting, HOA enforcement. They stormed in with the urgency of a SWAT team on a mission, shouting orders, wielding flashlights that cut through the darkness. But they weren't police. They weren't even legitimate officials from the Homeowners Association. No badges, no identification, just thugs in cheap knockoff uniforms, men who had no right to be inside my home. That night they made one fatal miscalculation. They targeted the wrong family. My name is Jared Clean. I'm a retired Army Ranger, a man who spent years serving in some of the world's most dangerous places. Now, I'm a stay-at-home dad, raising my 12-year-old son, Logan. We live on a peaceful cul-de-sac on the outskirts of a small lakeside town in Minnesota, a place where neighbors wave hello and life moves slowly. My wife died suddenly 3 years ago from an aneurysm. She was gone without warning, leaving just Logan and me behind. Since then, it's been the two of us against the world. Logan isn't your typical kid. He's a thinker, a builder. His favorite pastime is constructing Lego tanks with working suspensions and reading books about military strategy. Not your usual juvenile hobbies, but they reflect the man I hope he'll grow to be. I've tried to shield him from the darker parts of life, to preserve whatever innocence remains. But that night shattered everything. Our HOA had gone off the rails. After a leadership shakeup last year, a woman named Cheryl Ross seized control. She wasn't elected by the residents. Instead, she declared herself acting president, citing some obscure loophole in the bylaws that supposedly let her take over in the absence of a quorum. I called it what it was: BS. Most of the neighborhood shrugged and stayed silent. But Cheryl wasn't interested in quiet consensus. Her rule became tyrannical. She started slapping ridiculous fines on neighbors for the most trivial things. One man was fined $200 because his trash bins were left out 37 minutes past the scheduled pickup. Another was fined for painting his house an off-white instead of the mandated eggshell cream. I stayed quiet until she targeted me. She claimed my old Ford F-250 pickup truck was a military-style vehicle and thus banned from residential parking. She levied fines and processing fees until my bill totaled over $3,800. I told her plainly, this was harassment, pure and simple. She smiled like I'd just handed her a challenge. Nobody expected her to go as far as she did, least of all me. Back to that night. The door exploded inward. My heart slammed against my ribs as I lunged for the 9mm pistol secured in the biometric safe beside our bed. But I was too slow. One of the intruders already stormed into our bedroom, flashlight stabbing into my eyes, yelling about resisting an HOA inspection. Their black vests said, "Security Enforcement," in stark white letters, but there was no official badge, no name tag, no legitimate authority. I raised my hands slowly and told them they had the wrong house. They weren't interested. "Non-compliant vehicle on record," one said flatly. "We're authorized to inspect and impound." Another man was ransacking the living room drawers, calling out, "Found cash!" Meanwhile, another yelled at Logan, who was now standing barefoot in the hallway, trembling and terrified, struggling to comprehend what was happening. The scene was surreal, like something out of a nightmare. A few months before, I'd begun teaching Logan about gun safety. Basic things like how to hold, unload, and respect a firearm, stressing that he should never touch it without me. But I also told him that if someone ever broke in and I wasn't there to help, he had to do whatever it took to survive. I never imagined the moment would come so soon. Logan didn't scream or cry. quiet as a shadow. When the man in the hallway turned his back, Logan slipped back into his room, retrieved the Ruger .22 from the biometric lockbox we kept high on the closet shelf, something we'd practiced unlocking on weekends, and fired a single shot. I didn't see it happen, but I heard the sharp pop, then silence, then a scream. The man collapsed, clutching his thigh as blood spread rapidly through his black cargo pants. Logan stepped out, pale but steady, both hands gripping the gun as we had practiced. His voice was calm, eerily so, when he said, "Drop your weapons or I'll shoot again." The house fell utterly silent. The man in our bedroom froze. The one rifling through our drawers hesitated, and the man in the kitchen cursed before bolting out the back door. Within seconds, 3 of them were fleeing in a black SUV with no license plates, tires screeching as they sped away. I moved to take the gun from Logan, who was visibly shaking. His eyes didn't blink for nearly a full minute. I held him close, telling him he'd done the right thing, that I was proud of him, that he was safe. Meanwhile, the wounded man groaned on the floor. I called 911 immediately, explaining that we had intruders, that my son had fired in self-defense. The dispatcher asked me to confirm. "Your son shot the intruder?" I answered, "Yes." There was a pause. Then she said, "Sir, officers are en route. Keep the firearm secured. We'll take it from here." The real police arrived within 6 minutes. These were men with genuine badges and guns, and they quickly handcuffed the injured man, read him his rights, and summoned an ambulance. I showed them the fake uniform, the plastic badge, the laughable HOA warrant of entry document. One officer chuckled. "This is the dumbest thing I've ever seen," he said. They made their own warrant. As it turned out, Cheryl had fabricated an entire enforcement division, complete with counterfeit paperwork and gear purchased online. She thought calling it the Neighborhood Security Task Force would give it legitimacy. She even registered a 501c3 nonprofit to make it look official. But it was nothing more than a scam, a group of bullies trying to scare residents into compliance. They traced the black SUV back to Cheryl's boyfriend, Doug, a convicted felon on parole with a history of impersonating law enforcement, the very man Logan shot. Cheryl insisted it was all a misunderstanding, that she believed they were just conducting compliance checks and had no idea they'd go this far. But the police didn't buy it. Cheryl was arrested for conspiracy to commit home invasion, impersonating law enforcement, and reckless endangerment. The others faced similar charges. The district attorney cleared Logan by the next morning, calling it one of the clearest cases of juvenile self-defense he'd ever seen. No charges, no probation, no legal consequences. But that doesn't erase the emotional toll. For weeks afterward, Logan barely slept. He checked locks obsessively, asked if we should move. One night I overheard him whisper, "I thought I was going to die." That shattered me. I sat on the edge of his bed, held his hand tightly, and told him, "You were brave, braver than I ever was at your age. But you don't have to be brave anymore. That's my job now." We started therapy. We installed security cameras. We fortified our front door with reinforced steel hinges. Logan is doing better, though he rarely talks about that night. It's there in his drawings, though. Not tanks or helicopters anymore, but our house surrounded by tall walls and searchlights, with us safe inside, smiling. People sometimes ask if I regret teaching him how to use a gun, or if I wish I'd handled the situation differently. I don't. Because that night, they didn't just break into our home, they shattered our sense of safety and peace. And Logan stood up. He didn't want to be a hero, he just wanted to protect his dad. In doing so, he saved us both. So here's my question to you. What would you do if someone claiming to be an authority figure burst into your home at 3 a.m., dragging your child from bed, flashing a fake badge? Would you freeze? Fight? Would your child know how to respond? Share your thoughts below. And if you've ever faced corrupt HOAs or people abusing fake titles to intimidate others, please share your story. No one should have to face that alone. Sometimes, all it takes is one voice saying, "No more."